So we picked Mongo in the first place because real estate information is a document, right? It's going to be your facets, your description, a bunch of pictures, things like that. It's a perfect use case. There's a lot of other data that we continue to use that is related to that, but documents are it's ideal in our business. Most of the people who are searching, they're going to be searching for pieces of data that are within a document. Rarely do you know exactly the address that you're looking for unless someone kind of handed it to you or you're driving around, but that's a search case as well. So trying to find people the right data that they need when they need it is the most important thing, right? And being that we're the largest and we do have listings worldwide, we also need to be able to scale and grow and move things to the edge. And so that's part of where we're headed. But when we got started, we were trying to figure out how do we grow up fast. We're a very forward-thinking company. A lot of the technologies that I see on the screens, they're things that are like, oh yeah, we should implement that. Or I was at a conference where we were talking about, have you tried this new feature that Mongo has or whatever? And I was like, yeah, we piloted that, we tried that, whatever. And a lot of people haven't tried those things. So I really give a lot of props to my director of engineering who allows us to have that experimentation room and get to balance what is the need of the business and also what's exciting and interesting and fun to keep the work going forward. So in ramping up quickly with Mongo, this was prior to my arriving, they needed to have some people who had the knowledge and expertise. And so we brought in an outside consultant who gave us their best efforts at trying to get something up and going. Like I said, there was a few anti-patterns. The plan was that they were going to do a knowledge transfer, and then we were going to iterate and kind of get the team to have all the things that the consultants had. You know, it's a standard plan. Unfortunately, COVID happened right after we went live. And so the way that Keller Williams dealt with that was they had a strong commitment to their full-time employees, but they tried to cut all the discretionary costs like contractors. And so immediately we lost all that knowledge, right? And so then it's kind of going in and trying to figure out what were they doing and why were they doing it? The way that we ramped and got away from that was by working with partners. And the partners for us was MongoDB Professional Services. They were able to come in, they're able to talk to us, they're able to tell us, hey, here are some things that you guys are doing that you may want to reconsider that aren't the best fit. Then there were some things that, we thought, well, at least when I came in, it was people saying, well, that's their job. They're trying to sell you this thing or that thing or whatever. But what I've found is it's kind of the opposite. They're talking about how do we use their technology in a way that is best for us, that, if they can help us to shrink our costs here and improve our speed there, then we're going to be ready for that next thing that we want to go to Mongo first and try. So yes, they're still going to expand their footprint, but it's because we shrunk what we're spending over here to spend it over there. So I would say don't hold back when you are talking to them about your use cases. When our salesperson and professional customer support person come in, we bring in the product manager as well to talk about what are his needs, what does he see as a vision, so that we can talk about, well, what might solve that problem? Not that we're looking to use every new technology that Mongo has, but that we're trying to figure out, is there already a pre-built solution so we don't have to go and build one ourselves? And that's what's going to enable developer productivity. Another thing that's super important is training. As I said, our consultants who left us not knowing a whole lot. And so getting training from Mongo or from whatever source, finding the source that works best for you is the main thing, right? For me, it was reading O'Reilly books, right? But for some people, it's going to be taking a YouTube class or some of the great online stuff that Mongo has. And so what I recommend is everybody who comes into my team needs to go through that Mongo 001 class that just teaches some super basic stuff rather than have them. I guess I got handed a pamphlet that said, if you're trying to move from SQL to Mongo, this is what you do. And it really was, like 8 pages, but I used it all the time. I was trying to figure out how to do those things. But those training classes get you up and running to, the first level. And they're not super complicated. We had a Scrum Master who wanted to understand what people were talking about, and so she went through the same class and said, yeah, now I understand what people are saying in the Scrum meetings. So I would say everybody should go and take a class. When you go in, you need to be willing to look silly, willing to look stupid. I came from 12, 15 years of SQL experience, and so learning to do it all over again was hard. And I know a lot of people get stuck right there. They say, well, why can't I do a join or something like that? Well, you can in just a different way, right? I don't know what the expertise level is in this room, but if you're a pushback person or an old hand at it, you know that you've run into people who are in that situation, can't get any further. And so, I try to equate it to being a surgeon. And maybe you're a great surgeon in Spain, and then you come to the US and you're like, I want that sharp thing, hand me the sharp thing. I know how to use it, I just don't know what it is. And so for me, that was an important part of the learning process, and I would encourage everybody to do the same. And then everyone can benefit, not just your developers, but having your dev managers, your Scrum Masters, all those other people. Everybody should go through, I think, at least that 101 course, which is free and online. So the other classes that are available, those are also useful, but a deeper audience. So just be mindful and ask your sales coordinate or your sales customer, the people from Mongo who help you succeed. Customer success, like Sam over here. You ask those people, well, what's going to benefit your team and where you're at? It's a partnership. There we go. So when I came to KW, I had used Mongo before, but I had not used Atlas. And to be honest, I was not happy about Atlas. I was like, where's my console access? Why can't I access this stuff? Well, I just want to run this script. How do I get access? And so what was ironic was that in learning how to get myself access, because there are tools in Atlas that will grant you that, I also learned about a ton of other beneficial things that were in Atlas. And so I'd encourage you to go and explore what's there. Some of those great features are the user management, but there's others. The query profiler, the profile monitor, those things are really useful. Oftentimes we'll go in and look and see, oh man, we've got something that's running 200 milliseconds. Did somebody forget to create an index? Or they have the index suggestion. You can use that. I think you can overuse it and have too many indexes. So be mindful of it. But it is useful if you're trying to figure out what is going on, why are things running slower, or how could I decrease load on my environment. Of course, automatic scaling, everybody knows that Atlas can do that, but it really is super useful because I don't have to talk to my DevOps team at all. I don't have to deal with upgrades through them. I just make some adjustments and I can save money or increase performance either way. The automatic backups and failovers are also really useful. We've had times when a developer environment got wiped out, and that happened because somebody thought they were running on their local machine, but in fact they were logged into the dev box, right? But it was super easy to go back and just restore from backup, no problem. As I said, there was the easy index creation, and then and the updates happening on their own effectively, without having to involve DevOps or get a whole bunch of approval. There's still control there, right? Because if there are breaking changes, you want to verify that you're not going to be broken. But I was talking to someone this morning, and we tend to upgrade often because we are not using things that are deprecated. So it's easy for us to leverage the benefits, and I'm really excited to use some of the Mongo 6 benefits that they announced today. Another benefit is using Realm. Realm is an interesting tool because we can make changes as things are happening. So in our case, we've got listings that are coming in all the time from all over the world. There are 1,000 different MLSs across the US and Canada, and then other places in the world. And as those pieces are brought in, there are some things that we want to have changed, some manipulation of the data. And what Realm enables me to do is I get to control when and how those things get updated, and I don't have to wait for a data team, which in our company is a separate group, to go in and build an ETL pipeline, because I can just adjust it there in the triggers. And so as things are getting inserted, then I shift them around so that they meet our needs. And then eventually the data team will do the work that we need to have that happen outside of Realm. And so it's kind of a temporary solution for us. We've also used it for some times when we got to production and realized, oh man, that should have been this other way. And so using Realm to fix those situations kept us from having a hot fix while we waited, that extra week to get everything in shape that it needed to be. What I found is sometimes triggers don't always trigger, and so sometimes data would get lost. So I think using those two in a marriage of a cron job and a trigger is a good way to go. You can have the immediate action take place, but then when it comes to the occasional maybe sync back up on an hourly basis or something, it just kind of keeps your data looking exactly how you expect it to. And so in general, I would say it's a better way to go. AppSync, now that's a feature of Realm that I'm looking forward to reevaluating. We evaluated it last year, and it wasn't there for us. It wasn't the thing that we needed. The sync had to be done on a I just blanked on the word. Partition. On a partition basis that we couldn't adhere to because we had too many users that would be in that case. It would require a lot of duplication of data. So we passed on that. But with some of the things that they're pushing out this summer, I think that it's going to be worth re-examining. And so, that would be useful. GraphQL for us is really useful, but we are not using Realm for that GraphQL piece. But if you're trying to spin up an app in place, it seems like a really nice way to eliminate that middle layer as long as you don't have a ton of business logic that's built in there. So I would encourage you to look at those things. Charts. Man, charts is something that I get more good credit for that I did almost nothing for, right? I was watching Mongo World 2 years ago online, and I saw this charts thing, this demo that they did, and I thought, well, that'd be fun to play with, and so I did. I played with it with our data, came up with just a few charts of like how many users have signed up over time and when they signed up, and just dropped it into buckets based off of. I mean, at the time we didn't even have when did they join as a date field, but because the unique ID, the object ID, has date built into it, we're able to do a to-date conversion that then drops it back into time series data that I can use this created field and build my chart based off of that. So being able to retroactively be able to say, well, we didn't actually store that data intentionally, but here it is, and being able to show that to our product manager and say, hey, here are the things. He now uses those charts in all of his meetings with executives, not as an embedded, but he takes the chart that you see here, and he will, there's a button you can click that says show me the raw data, and he can take that as an Excel file and put it into his pretty chart format. But as far as getting a picture of what he needs, I would say it's the most underrated feature in Atlas. Like I said, the product managers and business analysts are all clamoring for Atlas access now because they want to be able to see these charts. And I understand I could build a dashboard or something that would give them access, but I don't want to take that time. So they get to do it through there. I would imagine that you came because Sahir mentioned our Atlas Search implementation. And this talk was going to be largely about Atlas Search for a while. The guy our lead developer, he's going to be having surgery tomorrow, so he couldn't make it, so I'm covering a broader scope. But I will say that Atlas Search the proof of concepts have been really good. We've got an implemented in production address search where you can type ahead and you can have some For example, if I'm typing in 123 Main Street, I'm looking for that address, we have the geolocation built in that boosts the score of the ones that are near my current location. It also handles mistakes, typos. If I was to type Main with 2 I's or something like that, or Main Street with an E on the end, or maybe it's supposed to have an E on the end and I left it off, the Atlas Search is able to surface the correct result. And the way that it looks for the developer is very similar, right? Without any change to my data, you can see the one on the left, this is how I would search. I'd look for, let's say I'm looking for a boat slip in the description. I want to be able to find that feature. If I look in Atlas Search, I could say the same thing. I could misspell it, and I'm going to get results because of synonyms. I can get results that are going to allow me to see boat slip, boat dock, whatever, some things that I can say are similar. And so this feature was it was a mind-blown kind of experience for our team when they saw what data was in the database that we weren't even surfacing. We had built a feature that allowed us to have keyword search, but the keywords had to be built, right? You have to have some sort of lexical lookup that says, let me find the things that are important. This one allows you to find anything, however the realtor decides to type it in. Instead of having, facets that they would have to pick from, they're able to say, well, it's beautiful and has this and nice sunsets and watch whatever. Maybe you type in, I want to have a pretty house with a boat and watch the sunset. Great, you've found some recommendation in your area. So, like I was saying, the aggregation is very similar. It's still, it's going to be against the same database. You're just calling an aggregate. Your first stage is going to be search instead of match. And then you're able to do the same projections, and then you can do additional lookups after the fact. So it just gets you a list of items you're going to be working with, but it's super fast, and it requires its own index, but you can choose which fields you want to index on. For me, I'm going to say here, I'm indexing description, but I could also be indexing everything. You could do a wildcard if you want and be able to pull it from anywhere, and it'll return those for you. And then you can even show syntax highlighting when your match comes back if you're doing some sort of type ahead lookup. So the results were great. We're going to continue implementing more, especially with what they called out in the keynote with faceting. That looks like a real great feature that we're going to have to get in place. So Mongo makes managing your databases very easy. It's important to treat your Mongo support team as a partner and not a vendor. And remember that you can always use more training. I'm looking for some more training myself. The reps have recommended some stuff that I'm really interested in. Try to use the ecosystem. Not everything's going to be a good fit for you, but at least play around in the free sandbox, right? There's lots of cool, fun things to play around with, and even if you don't have a use case for it now, if you have a solution kind of tucked in the back of your head when that problem arises in meetings, I'm able to say, oh, you know what, there's a feature we could do. It would be something like this. And then come and visit us at kw.com as we continue to leverage search and make it work for us. Thank you. Yes, sir. Coming from a SQL background, what was the easiest and most challenging aspect of the transition? Yes. Okay. The most challenging thing was to stop creating lookup tables and choose to embed my data. Every time I do it, I still think, why am I doing this? Is this really the right time to do it? And it's not. You don't always want to embed everything into your collections or into the same record, but yes, it is good to do, and it's still a little bit tough for me. The easiest thing, just thinking in JavaScript all the time, working in Node, and then JavaScript on the front end. Back then, jQuery was the thing, but using JavaScript being able to iterate over things. You know, when you do a find and you say you can do like .for each, you can chain your JavaScript together, and I could have those manipulations right on the objects as I'm iterating through. That was really powerful for me to be able to produce reports for people from the console that were useful right away. Anybody else? Yes, sir. I'm sorry, could you speak up a little bit? Well, we're using the default tokenizer. We did not create something special for that. So default seems okay. I know that there's different languages. As we are thinking about different locales, we need to be able to leverage additional tokenizers, but I understand that we can say, you know, given this language, use this index. So that's probably where we'll go with that. Yes. Yes. Sorry, I only saw you in the back. Yeah, so I mean, disaster recovery, we've got our Mongo in 2 regions, and so I guess there's that level of disaster recovery. They're syncing across those. I suppose if I wanted to be extra careful, then I would go ahead and have a Mongo. We're in GCP. If we were in Azure and GCP, that would probably be better. You know, spread it out, and then. Like I said, as our international business is growing, we'll probably move another cluster to Europe or Asia as needed. And so I think about it in terms of that. My understanding is when you're doing that, you need to have the right number of clusters so that if a whole data center fails, then they need to be able to elect a new master. And so just keeping that in mind. That's right now we're just with 2 though, so it's not a big deal. 2 and 3 in each cluster, right? 2 in one and 3 in the other. Yes, sir.
So we have a real estate application as well, and your search, well, we have this complicated engine that does like, there's 8 ways to write the word street.
Mm-hmm.
St. George, Utah can be spelled 5 different ways.
Mm-hmm.
Can you handle all of that with this search that you've described here?
Yeah, if you define synonyms, then you could say that every one of those is street, and then your lexical.
So do you guys maintain a separate, the previous iteration, or have you moved everything over to this Atlas search?
We do have, it is all the same database, so it's just 2 different indexes. And the way that we did it was on the front end, we just have the request object, the search object that gets passed up to a handler that then translates it into a Mongo search. And so that enabled us to test against one or the other. Unfortunately, I don't have the performance numbers with me, but it was about as good to do it with the index and just filtering on specific facets. But now we have the ability to do that, the free text search as well.